Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James and I have a couple of pens I want to share with you. These are both Jinhao 126 models and with two different nibs. One's a number 5, one is a hooded nib, and this is one of those pens that is an absolute bargain and seems to be really well made. But why don't we go ahead and spin that camera and get a closer look, and I'll show you why I think this might be a good buy for you. All right, let's look at the Jinhao 126. It is, as I said, a long, slender pen, and that's the number one thing you're going to notice about the design of the pen, other than maybe that very long, or at least it appears to be very long, clip. It goes from the top of the finial, and actually it dissects the finial because it is a spring-loaded clip, as you can see here, and it's good and stiff. But it's slender, and that makes it look quite long. Let me see here. Here is a Parker Jotter. Maybe you have one of those around, so you can see just how long the clip is compared to that. Or I have, let's see, something else. The Hongdian 525, which itself is not a crazy long clip, just fairly normal length clip, but longer than that Parker Jotter's. And you can see that going from, let's line those up top to top of the clip, that there's a good length difference there as well. So that's probably the most prominent feature on this pen as far as the exterior is concerned. This one is a black lacquer. I also have the stainless steel back there. We'll look at that in a second. This is the number 5 Jinhao nib that you know I like. If you've seen my reviews before, I had good performance out of these. And I won't say too much about that today. You can look at the review of the Jinhao porcelain ceramic pen, and you'll be able to see a little bit more about that. I'll put a link here, but you can see there what I think about the nib. And of course we'll do a writing test here in a moment. It does have this metal section, or very convincing plastic, I'm not sure, but there is that. So if you don't like those because they're a little bit slippery, this is both thin and has that slick finish, so you'll like or not like that. Then it does come with, of course, a converter. It does not come with the normal Jinhao converter. This is a slide converter. It works fine, and actually, I'll tell you, it filled very easily. I generally don't like these, but performance-wise so far, it's been fine. And it does have a metal spring agitator inside to break the surface of the ink. You just can't see it because I have Noodler's Eel Black in there. It's a fairly light pen, especially when you take it apart. I guess that would be true of most pens, wouldn't it? When you take them apart, they're a little bit lighter. Go figure. Anyway, I think that number 5 nib suits it well. If you didn't know this pen was as thin as it is, you might actually think that was a larger nib, but it is a pretty thin pen. The length is good, and so if you write with it unposted, there's no issue whatsoever. It is a thin pen. The cap, even though it's metal with a plastic sleeve inside, is not so heavy that it makes it unbalanced, I don't think. So it writes well posted, and snicks, I'm sorry, I was off the camera right there, that snicks closed with authority. I like that. So that is the black version, and then you have this stainless steel, and I'll put a picture up of all the versions available, but this one is stainless steel, and it has a design on this barrel and cap that reminds me a lot of cross pens from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and of course some still being sold, but that's kind of what that reminds me of, not in shape at all, just in the finish. The shape, of course, is identical to the black pen, so still that spring-loaded stiff clip and all that good stuff. What this has different, and why I'm bothering to show it to you, is that it has the hooded nib, and I find that there's not a great big difference between that fine and the number 5 and this, which should be a .38 nib, but I find that they write fairly similarly, actually, so it might come down to just which kind do you like better. The other kind is a little bit easier to clean than this, but I like them both. It also does, of course, come with that exact same converter. So there you go. let's go ahead and dive into the writing test of the Jinhao 126 and see how it goes. All right, let's see how the pen actually writes. I'm going to write with this one posted, which I like. It does make for a long pen, but not an unbalanced pen. So this is the Jinhao 126, and this comes with a fine number 5 nib. This is Noodler's Black from their Eel line. Okay, I apologize if my table shakes. This is an old table. We've got COVID in our household, and so we're on lockdown, and so I'm not at my desk today. And this is one of my favorite tables, though. It's been in the family an awful long time, longer than I have. So a little squeaky, but we'll forgive it. That's probably what my wife says about me. He's a little squeaky, but we'll forgive him. Let's see here. I want to be quiet for a second and just write. As you can see, it writes quite smoothly. And, you know, I don't always like a thin pen, slender pen. But I noticed that when I got this, and I got these out of curiosity. They're fairly inexpensive, and kept seeing them. Hadn't heard much about them, but as always happens, as soon as I bought it, somebody mentioned in the comments on one of the videos here, "Hey, have you checked out the Jinhao 126? And it's great." And so I was glad because I'd already ordered it. But it's actually a more comfortable pen thin than I thought it would be. There are a few other pens like that that I'll show you here in the size comparison that I've enjoyed more than I thought I would, and I'm glad. Let's see here. Actually, I'm sitting here talking. Tomorrow is National Handwriting Day. I'm not actually sure what that means. I assume it's kind of like National Ice Cream Day. It's a good excuse to do that. There you go. But however you want to celebrate it, celebrate it. I write every day. This is the stainless steel version and with the hooded nib. And you know, I actually, when I ordered them, looking at pictures, I thought this is the one that I would like the most, but I kind of like the basic black the most, but I like them both. So this is, again, a Jinhao. Whoops. I just inked this up a second ago and wiped it off, so there may have been a delay. And this is, I believe, a 0.3 hooded nib. I know it's hooded. I think it's a 0.3. And this would be Pelican. Looks a little darker than usual tonight, but it's Pelican Royal Blue. I think that's just the lighting. Also, a good writer. I already did that, didn't I? Pah! Repeating myself there. But I like this pen. It's also a great writer. So, my impression of both of these, they've been really reliable. They write smoothly, just like every other Jinhao, pretty much, that I've ever had. Whatever you might think about Jinhao, their nibs, generally pretty consistent. I really like them. And so, good pens. And, you know, you have to like a skinny pen to like these. But I was surprised. I actually like them better than I thought I would. They're a little bit more comfortable than I thought they would be. We'll put those there, and let me compare some others that strike me the same way. So if you watched my video on Applebaum of my 3 favorite pens, this is one my wife gave me back when we lived in Russia. It's a Schaefer, see the white dot, and this is called the Fashion 2. It's a pen from the 90s, and it also is a slender pen that, again, you know, I would have thought was a little bit too much, too thin. Very, very similar dimensions in those. I like them both. This is a great pen, and you can still find some in new old stock, by the way, if you just search around the internet. This, looking a lot like a Parker Vector, is actually the Bauer 801, and it is definitely Parker Vector-like, down to a more modernized arrow clip. And it is actually, I think, skinnier at the front end of the section than the Vector itself. And I like it too. It's a great writer. Good nib on that inexpensive pen. Very similar, I'll move that up there, as you can see in size. Very, very close. There you could pick on style, and you're going to get a good pen either way. And both of them really inexpensive. I think I paid all of $2 for that stainless steel Bauer. Then there is the Parker Jotter, which is also a pretty thin pen, but differently styled. It's got curves to it, and great writer. Love the nib on that. It's a medium, and really like their medium nibs. And then one more, and that is the Karandash, or if you lived in Russia, the Karandash. And I like this pen. It does have a step down and then a very thin section, much like the one on that Bauer. But it's one that I've enjoyed too. So sometimes I surprise myself, and I like pens that I don't think I will. So there you go. Size-wise, that gives you a good idea. A lot of you have a Vector or a Bauer 801. It's a little bit longer than that, but very similar in diameter. If you have an old Schaefer, very, very similar in size. Very different pens, but similar in size, Jotter or something like that. There you go. That gives you an idea of how big or small a pen it is, and I do think it's a good one. It is, if you're experienced with Jinhao pens, you know what to expect. I think it's just right in the middle of their line in terms of its reliability, how well it writes, and everything else. You can have a good idea of what you're going to get. If you've never had one before, this is probably an unusual one for people to start with Jinhao, because it doesn't get pushed in reviews and on the message boards and things as much as, say, a 159 or something like that. But it is a really good pen, and I've really enjoyed writing with it. And I'll leave a link in the description below where you can find that pen a couple different places. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. I hope that you stay safe and stay well, and God bless you.